Hi guys, my name is Patrick, but you can call me 26, and what you're going to do in this video is pretty straightforward. We are going to complete our app, right? So we have built up, you can search for a location, you can drag the map in around and get the location. When you drag it, you just get the location on the map. Now, the last thing we need to do is we just want to add the user's location, right? So when you press the button, in this case, we have set our location to be Johannesburg in South Africa. So if you press the button, you should get the location, right? So the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that the user can actually add their location by pressing a button. So we are going to add a floating action button, and you can press this and add a location. So now when we do this, this will be a complete solution in case of you want to create like you want to add location, right? So you could turn this into a package and use it to add location natively with SwiftUI, right? So you could search, if you want to search for a location, you could actually drag the map around, or you could use your current location, or you could search for a location on the map, and when you get it, when you get something close to it, you could then move the pin to make it more fine-grained to get the actual location, right? So let's do that in this video, and let's get to it. Okay, now the very first thing we need to do in order to get a user's location is to first add that to our privacy manifest, right? Our privacy appeal list, right? Which is our privacy list, right? So we want to come here, select this top level, come here to the info.p list, right? And what we want to do is we could come to the bottom here and hit a plus, right? Now in the plus, we're going to search for privacy, and then the privacy, we want privacy location, and we want location when in use usage description, right? So we hit that, and then the next thing, we need to put a string, and this string is what the user is going to see when they're asked for their location, right? So we could come here and say we need to use your location to show it on the map, right? Now when we finish building our app and you run it for the first time, this is what the user is going to be asked, and when they say yes, they're going to allow the user to actually get the location, and we can therefore use it on our map, right? So this is where this is one thing you need to add, and then afterwards we can now handle our location manager delegate, like so, right? So we do that, and then afterwards we create a variable for manager. Come here and we say var manager, and this is going to be call location manager, and this is just going to be cl manager, call location manager, like so, right? And then after that we could create an initializer. Come here and say init, like so, call the super, like so. Then we come here and we say self.manager, and the manager is just going to be the delegate is going to be the self, like so. So we do that, then we say manager, we say the desired accuracy, and this one is going to be kc location accuracy best, and we then check if the user has authorized, right? Now we will be checking if the user has authorized permission, right? So we say if self dot manager, not MapKit search, but manager, I assumed manager would be the first suggestion, dot authorization status is going to be dot denied not determined. So if you're denied, you could maybe ask the user again. If it's not determined, that's what you're going to use. We're just going to come here and we say if it's not yet determined what authorization we've been given, we're just going to say self dot manager dot request when in use authorization, like so. Then we say self dot manager dot, if you want to constantly report or update the user's location, right? So okay, this is strictly not something we have to do, right? We could just ask it once, because whenever the button is going to be pressed, okay, yeah. So I'm going to show you this, then I'm probably going to comment it out, because it doesn't make sense, because you're going to be asking that from a button, right? So it's not real-time, getting the real-time location. But yeah, so if you want to get the real-time, you would say something like start updating location, but it's technically not required for our app, right? So you're just going to comment it out now that I've thought about it. And then we're going to say self.manager.request location, right? But one thing we want is when we initialize, we're going to request a location. So immediately after the user gives it, like if he's opening it for the first time and he gives the permission to the app, it's going to go to their particular location. The pin is going to go to their particular location, right? That being said, we also want the ability, like supposing the user is going to search the next time they're coming, right? They're not going to have the second time they open the app or they use this functionality, they're not immediately going to go to that particular location. So what we need to do is we're going to put the button, and the button is going to allow them to on demand request the location. So we need a functionality that is going to do this, right? So that being said, let's create that functionality. So we're going to come in and say func, and this one is going to be request location, and this one is just going to be exactly what you've seen here. It's just going to be manager dot request location, right? So we have this, we should be able to call that from the button that we're going to put on the screen, right? So that's going to be that. And then we need a few methods, and this one we could put them at the very bottom here, right? This one ends here. Okay, so this is going to be, let's come here and we say did update location, right? So we have did update location, and this one is just going to be locations, which is going to be an array, right? So we say map, like so, hit this, we don't really need this, so we could get rid of that. And this is just going to be we're going to get the coordinate, and the coordinate is going to be gotten from the $.coordinate, right? So that from the last one we get, right? This is going to be a list of the last locations that the user was at, and we get the very last one because we're getting their current location, and then we map it to our coordinate, which if you remember is going to be the coordinate here, right? So this is currently set to New York, right? But now we have a new one, so we want to set it there, right? So we're going to repeat a lot of the stuff we need to do. Where is it? A lot of the stuff that we're doing here, right? So the next thing we would do is we would say something like update camera, like so, and this one is going to be true, like so. Then we're going to say show pin is going to be true, right? So that you can move a pin there, and then maybe this method is a bit misnamed if you think about it. Find coordinate, right? So this is actually, it should be annotate coordinate, right? So let's just come in and say refactor and rename, and this one should be annotate coordinate, right? So this one is going to be let's just say annotate coordinate, right? That makes a lot more sense, right? So it's annotate coordinate, right? So what we want to do afterwards is just call this with this, move the camera smoothly, and then annotate the coordinate, right? So come here, paste this, like so, and that's going to be that, right? And this should be locations dot last, the last possible one, dot map, right? So then transform, right? So now it, yeah. Now the other function is what to do in case it fails, right? In case this fails, maybe the user has refused to give us permission and whatnot, right? So, or it fails for whatever reason, right? So if you don't call this, you're going to get an error, right? So you say did fail with error, right? And here we're just going to print the error, whatever error we get, right? This is going to be error dot localized description, right? So we do that, and now our view manager, our view model rather, or our view, yes, it's our view manager because it's our co-location manager, right? So our VM is actually going to serve also as our location manager. That's all. And the advantage that since it's observable, we can actually observe the changes, which is perfect in my opinion, right? Now, location button from the co-location UI that was introduced in iOS 15 to do this. And every time I've tried including it into this, I guess it probably implements the location manager a bit differently. So every time I've tried to include it, it hasn't really worked, right? Every time I've tried to include it, it has led to, I don't know, maybe for some reason it's just not been working, right? So I've had to not use it and build my own button that does the same thing, right? So I've tried using the inbuilt button, but I guess the way it implements, because, and I read the documentation, it's supposed to be used once, right? So it should ideally be used once, but we have already gone and gotten permission from the user to get their location while they're using the app, and then you're trying to use something that is used once, so maybe that might not be ideal. So what we're going to do is we're going to put an overlay, And then on that overlay, we're going to put a button, and then we're going to call the request location, right? So that would be one way we could go around. Now, another thing I've also tried using, and it has not been entirely, okay, it hasn't been as successful, has been to use a map control, where, because, you know, Apple normally have their own way of doing like maps, where they normally put the button somewhere here, right? But I wanted, since we're putting we're adding a on-tap gesture on the map, we'd have to add extra code to stop it from working the way we want it to work, right? Because when you press that, it goes onto the map and actually the icon moves in its place, right? So that might not be the other best option if you're wondering why I did it like this, right? Now, the third option would be to do it the way Google does, right? And I kind of like Google's location button and whatnot. So they normally put the button like a floating action button, right? Which is what they do in material design, which material design is also accepted by Apple, right? So Google apps usually use material design and are in Apple, right? So enough with the talk, but that's just to explain why I did the way I did things, because I can think of at least 3 ways to do this. So let's see how we're going to do this, right? So what you're going to do is here, we're just going to add an overlay, right? So we come in and we say overlay, like so. Overlay, and for our overlay we're going to align it, alignment. You could put it at the top. I don't want to put it at the top, right? I'm just going to say bottom trailing. You could, if you want, to put it like somewhere here and then make it boxy. One way you could do it is you could make it look like Apple's own button, right? So you could make it look like Apple's own button and then put it at the top. Then the user would be none the wiser, because you could make it look exactly the same, right? Because Apple doesn't have on the particular icon they use, they don't have a they don't stop you from using it. It's not one of their own SF symbols that you're not supposed to use. Like, you know, the ones that they have patented and whatnot, right? The ones that they stop you from using, right? It's not one of those. So you could create it, but I just want to make it like the way Google does it, right? So what we want to do here is we want to put a button, and the button in question is going to have an action like so, and the label, right? So what you're going to say is going to be, you can see it already. The label is going to be, we want an image, and the system name is going to be location. So you could use this location.fill like so, and you can see it there. And maybe you could give it a bit of padding. So we say the padding to inflate the button, right? And then we're going to say dot background, and the background is just going to be color.white like so, and we have that. And then we need to make it round, so we say .clip shape, and this is just going to be circle, right? So we do circle like so, so we have that. And then add a padding trailing, right? So we say padding dot trailing like so. So we add padding trailing, and that's going to be flush there like so, right? So that is going to be our button, right? And what we need to do, of course, is to come here, and in the action, what we want to do is just come and say, we would like to come in and say vm.request location, right? So now what we can do now is, if we hit this, we're going to get our location, right? And our location is currently Apple Park here, but let's run it on the simulator so that you can see it, and then test all 3 methods whether they're working, right? Like I said, with the other methods, it was a struggle getting all of them working, but I guess I've explained why I think it worked the way it did, or it didn't work the way it did, right? So let's come here and we start first. Can we move this, right? We can move it, still works. Can we hit this? And let's see, our location, let's switch to, where do we want to go? Let's go to Johannesburg, like so, and then come back here, right? So we're in Johannesburg. You can see Braamfontein. If we move this, we get Johannesburg, right? So we're in Johannesburg. We hit this, it goes back to Johannesburg, the middle of Johannesburg, right where the sign is. That works. What's the next thing we need to do? The next thing we need to do is we need to check whether this works, right? So let's check that, whether that works. Let's see. Let's go all the way to Miami, like so, right? So this is going to be Miami, like so, and we get Miami. And if we move this, let's just drag it, and we get Miami, like so, right? So that is going to be Miami, and it works. And when we hit this, we go back to Bloemfontein, right? Or closer to Braamfontein in Johannesburg, right? So now we can actually do all these things, right? We can search for a location here. We can then, when we get that location, we can improve it by this. And we can start off by just hitting this and going to our particular location, or any location. If you put it on a device, it's going to show you actual location. So that is more or less done and dusted. Thank you for watching this channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video.